Back on the Rational Boomer podcast. We did a little half-hour thing there. I was going to have TJ and Rebecca join me. Didn't work out. There was some kind of glitch, no doubt my fuck up. But we are back. We are back. We're doing the Rational Boomer podcast, and of course, we're doing a live on YouTube. We have TJ with us. We have Rebecca with us. They're both typically moderators, and they come on TikTok lives. We might very well be on a TikTok live today, except for the fact that I have been suspended from TikTok live until March 6th. But fuck it, we got YouTube. We don't care. Um, I know TJ, you watched this State of the Union, and I know you enjoyed it incredibly.
Yeah, I enjoyed it immensely. My brain hurts. I don't think I've heard more lies in a 2 hour period in my entire life. And honestly, I didn't want to watch it. The only reason why I watched it is because you hinted at doing the live, and that's the only reason. Otherwise, I wouldn't have fucking watched it. Caught the
Yeah,
about his lies, and that would have been it.
I originally, TJ, I just wanted the cliff notes, but then it was like, now it's like 2 hours of lies. I'll never come back because it was freaking horrible.
yeah. I watched most of it only because I felt like I had to, because I know people would ask me what I think, and I could have told you what I thought even before I watched it, because nothing surprised me here. It was a bunch of lies, exaggerations, a lot of bullshit. And it's pretty much the same thing he always says, no matter where he goes. Um, he's been an embarrassment as a president, generally speaking, but every one of his states of the union um, have just been off the rails. It didn't quite go as crazy as I thought. I was hoping that somebody would try to do something to cause him to be unhinged, because I think that's what we need to do. We need to drive this motherfucker crazy. I will say Al Green, Representative Al Green, gave it a yeoman's effort by the booing that was going on, and then Al Green kept talking, and he said the sergeant at arms and had to haul him out. He ended up getting hauled out. I would have thought the best strategy would have been, see what you think. Al Green stands up. They have to pause for a few minutes to get him out of there. Go for a little bit more, then have another rep stand up and do the same thing, and then a pause and get him out of there. Just disrupt the whole thing. That's what I would have liked to have seen. But once again, the Democrats don't come through very strong.
I had two thoughts. One was yes to do that so that none of us had to watch all that bullshit. It was just disruption after disruption after disruption until we finally gave up. And my second thought was let him uh, let him just rant and use it as fodder later.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know what to think. I mean, my first thought was, oh my God, everybody follow Al Green. Everybody do this. Every Democrat that's there, just disrupt, get kicked out, and just let this entire thing not happen. But the repercussions of that, like, would have come back like terribly on the Democrats. I think. I think like just sitting there and let them do their thing. Although I will say, I guarantee Fox News is going to be playing like the kid that had cancer and the Democrats applauding. Like, how do you not applaud for a kid that has cancer?
Well, no, I mean, I don't have any problem with that. You know, somebody just said I couldn't watch because I couldn't stand hearing his voice. And I kind of feel the same way. Anytime I see him up there, it just like nails on a chalkboard every time I listen to him. But I knew I had to watch it. So I took the attitude that my wife takes frequently, and I'm sure Rebecca does too. Let's just get this fucking over with. Let's just get it done.
But it just kept going and going and going. I was like, oh my God. It was 2 hours.
It was the
From
most
9 to 11.
it was the most convoluted pile of bullshit that I've heard. I think ever. Honestly, like
Yeah.
it, it was the most disingenuous bunch of lies that's imaginable. I mean, all he did was lie. He it's I, I I don't even know what to say. Like my brain hurts so bad because of how bad he lied about everything.
Like at one point, he literally blamed the fact that Putin invaded Ukraine on the fact that Biden
botched.
with
Yeah,
Afghanistan.
he botched the
Like,
withdrawal from
and
Afghanistan,
that gave
and,
that
and
emboldened
and
Putin
that
to
gave Putin
invade.
the green light to invade Ukraine. That makes fucking zero sense at all.
Yeah. You know what's funny about this Al Green that spoke up and was shown the door by Republicans? Donald Trump spent a lot of time talking about the First Amendment and how he's protecting the First Amendment. So one guy stands up and speaks out and they send him out the door. Do you think Donald Trump really cares about the First Amendment?
Fuck
He's
no.
okay with the First Amendment if he's talking, but if somebody's talking against him, that's a no-go. I'm going to investigate you. I'm going to sue you, or I'm going to show you the fucking door.
Oh, I can do it. I can do it. I can't. I can't comment in the chat, but I can moderate, so that's good.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Well, you can comment here. You
Well,
know that. Do
I
what I
thought
do.
I couldn't either. I couldn't get
Yeah,
on, but now
we.
I went on. Yeah.
Yeah, we. I want to make sure that we don't get taken down or whatever's going on here because there's some idiots in this chat. I'm just that.
Yeah, no, I know that. I've been removing some of them too, and it surprises me with YouTube. When I first started on YouTube, I didn't deal with Trumplefucks much. Uh, I'm convinced this about Trumplefucks. They don't care about policy. They don't understand policy. They don't understand anything but destruction, and they just want to fight. And honestly, to me, Trump-fucks are too stupid to argue with, and they're inconsequential. You don't matter anymore, and very soon you won't matter at all
Well,
because Donald Trump won't be president forever, and you'll be pointless.
yeah. You know what makes me sick to watch this debacle tonight, and Mike Johnson sat behind Donald Trump. And Mike Johnson fucking knows that Donald Trump lied over and over and over. He lied about the funding to Ukraine, said America gave $350 billion or whatever bullshit number he had, which is a total fucking lie. And Mike Johnson agreed with fucking all of it. He's a motherfucking liar. He needs to be held accountable for that.
Well, yeah, it's weird because there's a lot of Republicans that stood with Ukraine back in the day, back in Donald Trump's first term and during Biden's term. They stood with Ukraine. They spoke out about it. There's video of it. There's little Marco Rubio standing with Ukraine, and now they just say whatever Donald Trump says. This is the most disappointing thing I think with politicians, and it's Democrats as well as Republicans.
Yeah,
They don't care about the country. They don't care about what's right. They don't care about what's true. Clearly, the only thing they care about is their own position, their own seat in Congress, and their own power. And that is exactly the opposite we need from people who are in Congress for us.
yeah, 100%. And it's just really disappointing because the propaganda machine was out in full force tonight. Donald Trump lied over and over again, and I'm saddened by that because there's a lot of American people out there that are not going to know that that's not the truth, and that's frightening. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just sick to my stomach thinking about that. People are going to believe all this ridiculous nonsense that Donald Trump fucking spewed. I mean, it was just absolute fucking bullshit. Probably 90% of what he said was fucking not true.
Not you're being generous.
No, I'm being, logical, but I, I just feel really disappointed that this is the point that we're at right now.
Yeah, it is disappointing, disconcerting how many people. That's the thing. 99% of the stuff you said was untrue. And there is a faction of people that will believe 100% of it, no matter what you do. Um, but I have to wonder, with the things going on with Donald Trump, with the Zelensky thing, we were talking about it in the previous live. Donald Trump's finding himself in a bad position, both with tariffs and Zelensky. Let's talk about the tariffs first.
Yeah.
He invoked those tariffs last night at midnight. Immediately, well, when first mentioning and then enacting those tariffs, the stock market took a fucking huge hit.
Well,
Canada, Mexico, and China, talked about retaliatory tariffs, and it got real ugly. It got real ugly. And then I'm hearing somebody say that he may roll back those tariffs
Yes.
tomorrow. Now, I
Yeah.
don't know if that's true, but it wouldn't surprise me.
No, it's not 1 day of hits. It's 2 days of hits. The Dow Jones,
Yeah.
the Dow Jones lost like 1,200 points in 2 days. I had an argument with a Trump fuck earlier today. I sent him the Dow Jones index for daily and monthly, and I said, "This is what you voted for." And he's like, "It doesn't matter. The stock market goes up and down all the time. Not 1,200 fucking points. Not
No.
1,200 points. That's an event. Like they freak out when it goes down 400 points. 1,200 points. That's an event, right? And so the tariffs are direct. Donald Trump's tariff threats were a direct response by economists and people in Wall Street because they know that this is a disastrous path, and
Right.
and we're going down a road that has been proven by economists that is not a sound economical choice. And it's I think finally today, this is what I think happened. I think today finally someone explained to Donald Trump that tariffs are not good for the economy. And maybe like
Well,
he finally realized that the country that you tariff doesn't pay the tariff, that the importers and the American people pay the tariffs. I think maybe somebody finally, after months, drilled that idea into his head, and that idiot finally came to the fucking realization that tariffs will destroy our economy.
I don't think he just realized it, though. I think he's been being told that all along. You have to understand, this is Donald Trump's dumbass attitude as far as negotiation. He is a bully by trade. He's going to threaten you. If you don't back down, he'll ramp it up. If you don't back down, he'll ramp it up. When they were talking about retaliatory tariffs, he said, well, then my tariffs go up. This is what he does. He doesn't know any better other than to intimidate or bully somebody, and where he starts to flounder is when they don't bend to his thing, his demands. Now he always had it while he was in school, while he was in business, but now he's in a bigger playing field, a bigger arena, and people aren't backing down, especially for how silly he looks these days. And I think he knows. I think this is just his strategy, the only strategy he knows.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. But the very fact that I just don't understand how you could be the president of the United States and not listen to the people around you. Like even the Republicans know that this is a suicide mission to have these tariffs in place. They can't go in and tell Donald Trump, "Hey, this is not going to look good for you." Like that's all he cares about is that he looks good. Like they can't figure out how to frame it to make this fucking idiot understand that putting these tariffs on is going to destroy the economy and destroy, you know, our GDP. Our GDP projection is terrible right now. Yep. It's like almost 2% down for the end of the quarter. That's not good.
Yeah, but you're like talking like he's a normal human being. Like he's got dementia. He has like zero like the cognitive skills. Like he's a narcissist. Like he doesn't listen to anybody who tells him anything. Are you crazy? I think
No,
660 points today. Total of like 1,300 in the last like week or week and a half or something like that. Like, I
he's not a bright man. I don't know. Maybe he has the intellectual capability, but his emotional state is so broken that he just reacts emotionally on everything. He just burns bridges, scorches earth, and just says whatever comes out of his mouth, and he can't control it, and neither can the Republican Party, and that must be driving them nuts. They have to understand that what's Donald Trump going to be 79 in June? He's not in good health. He's not going to last forever, and he's going to leave wreckage and rubble when he's gone. There's going to be a lot to clean up. And my question is to those Republicans who are younger that stood by him all this time, what are they going to say then? How are they going to talk their way out of all this time clapping for Donald Trump when he says any stupid fucking thing that comes in his mind?
Well, they think they're not going to have to because they're convinced like he's going to be in power or somebody like him is going to be in power. They don't think they have to.
But do you think that Donald Trump is going to actually go back on the tariffs after he already said he's going to do it? Because he's going to look stupid by doing it, and he doesn't want to do that. So is he going to
Yeah.
go back on it, or is he not going to go back on it? Like that's the question. Like I think that he's not. I think he's gonna move forward with it, and we're gonna get into a recession, and then we're gonna be up the creek without a paddle.
I kind of hope he doesn't pull back the tariffs.
Me too.
And that may sound weird or cruel, but my contention here is that whatever Donald Trump does is going to be an incredible failure and it's going to crash. And the faster it crashes, the faster we can get out of it. They'll either impeach Donald Trump, he'll keel over, choking on a Big Mac, or whatever the fuck happens. But the faster it goes badly, the better off for the country. Ultimately, we can clear our way out of it quicker.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Um, and I think honestly, Mike, and I hate to say this, and I've been saying this in a chat with some people, but what is it going to take to make people realize the reality of what's going on here? And we suffered through the first time of Donald Trump, and all the Trump-a-fucks, you know, bought into the propaganda and all the bullshit that they're fed through Newsmax and Fox News and all these things, and they never felt the pain. And I feel like we're at a point in this country where they need to feel the pain, or they're never gonna fucking get it, because
Yeah, yeah,
the
I
only
agree.
the only way they're going to understand the gravity of what Donald Trump is if it hits them where it fucking counts, and that's in the pocketbook. They need to
Yeah.
feel that pain in their pocketbook, or they're never going to understand the damage that Donald Trump causes.
I want to tell you this one comment here. Probably somebody will want to get rid of eventually because he'll probably not take too kindly to what I have to say. His name is Nick Gurr. He says, y'all don't have enough in your 401k to worry about it. Nick, if you're a Trumper fuck, I guarantee you I got more under my bed than you got in your fucking 401k, especially after Donald Trump gets done with it.
Yeah, yeah, that's a ridiculous comment. Anyone,
It is.
anyone that says something like that, it's projection. They 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 have nothing. They have
Yeah.
nothing in their 401k. Like, and
If they have one.
if they even have one, they probably don't even have one. You know what I mean? So,
Here,
and I'm not, and I laugh at people like that say that shit to me, because if they knew what I had in my 401k, they'd shit their pants.
yeah. And we're not trying to brag about, I don't have, I'm not a rich guy, but I'm very comfortable. You're comfortable. I'm not even working anymore. I'm retired. Somebody asked me, what's my job? I go, you're fucking looking at it. I'm on TikTok. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Substack. I'm on Blue Sky. That's my fucking job right now. And I'm grateful for that. Here's another comment that I love getting these because it was bound to be a shit show with either candidate. That's just the way the world is nowadays. The 80s aren't coming back, unfortunately. First of all, if you're saying the 80s aren't coming back, you didn't live in the fucking 80s. And I guarantee you, I did live in the 80s. I was in my 20s in the 80s. And to suggest that Biden or Kamala would be just as bad as Donald Trump shows an immense amount of ignorance. That means to me that you're a Trump-a-fuck. I find that hard to believe. Here's the thing. I was born in 60. I was in my 20s in the 80s. There were some good points, but where it really got good was in the 90s with Bill Clinton when he balanced the fucking budget for once. I didn't like Bill Clinton, to be perfectly honest with you, but the economy was going pretty well. It wouldn't have been the same if Kamala was there, and to suggest that is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I understand. And I was pissed at Bill Clinton too. I didn't agree that, you know the whole thing with NAFTA, that kind of pissed me off. But I understand what happened. That Bill Clinton got held hostage by the Republican Congress, and
Yeah,
basically what they told him is that either you agree to NAFTA or we're going to fuck you your entire presidency. If you go along with NAFTA, we will work with you on everything else. And Bill Clinton, he thought that was okay, and he thought it wasn't going to be a big deal. Turns out it was a big fucking deal, and it really fucked up this country. But I was very disappointed that it happened that way. But you know, he did do a lot of great things for the country. Apart from that, we had a balanced budget that we haven't seen in any presidency in the modern times, and so that NAFTA thing kind of that puts a bad taste in my mouth that he did that, and it led to a decline in American jobs in this country. I'm not going to lie, that's factual
it's
information,
a,
and it sucks. But you know what? Like, what else could he do? He was stuck. You know.
it's interesting. Everybody has their opinions on what Donald Trump should do with Canada and Mexico with the tariffs, or even Ukraine. But here's what people have to understand: there is an upgrade or a adjustment to NAFTA, which is called the MCA or AMCA or something like that.
MCA, yeah.
Okay, so there is another agreement between Mexico, America, and Canada. Donald Trump, his administration created that treaty. And in that treaty that he created, it says you cannot put tariffs on Canada and Mexico or America. That's
Right.
part of the deal. So he's breaking the very treaty that he wrote. And
Well,
to give
Mike,
you an idea how oblivious he is, he
hold on.
looked at it and he said, whoever signed this is crazy.
He
Well, you
doesn't
signed it, you
remember
stupid
he
motherfucker.
signed it. He has no idea that he signed that. No idea.
No, no.
He he said it was the worst deal, and whoever signed it didn't know what they were doing or whatever he said. He's the one
He's
who
the
fucking
signed it.
signed it.
He
They
forgot.
wrote it. They
Yeah.
wrote it and he signed it.
Well,
And if you remember,
in fairness, Mike, he didn't write it because he's an idiot and he can't write anything. So his
well,
people wrote it, but he didn't write it.
If he wrote it,
well,
it would have said,
looks like we got frozen up here. That's what you
Oh,
get for
okay.
yeah,
using Starlink. That's what you get for using
yeah,
Starlink, for fuck's sake.
God damn, Elon.
he just pushed the wrong button.
I pushed the wrong thing. Elon
Um,
got me again.
well, I will say this: Donald Trump didn't write that treaty. However, he did color in all the hearts that were the dots for the eyes. So he did have his hand in it at one
Well,
point.
he colored outside the lines,
He totally
Well, yeah.
forgot that he did that.
you know. And they ate the crayons after he signed it.
No doubt, no doubt. But there's also a treaty with Ukraine. I don't know if people remember this. Ukraine had the ability to have some nuclear weapons, and Russia felt uncomfortable about it. Even America felt uncomfortable about it. America and Russia went into Ukraine and said, "Listen, if you get rid of these nuclear weapons, don't worry, we'll protect you. We'll take care of you." So they got rid of the nuclear weapons, and what does Russia do? They invade. And what does America do? They try to help them up until the time Donald Trump comes in, and now they want Zelensky to surrender to um, Vladimir Putin in Russia. And Vladimir Putin, they act like Vladimir Putin in Russia is this uninsurmountable force. They've been fighting for 3 years against a smaller country, and they haven't gotten anywhere.
No, they got their ass kicked. But here's the thing: like the deal that they gave Zelensky wasn't a peace deal; it was a surrender deal. He had to surrender his sovereignty and his land of his country and give up 5 times the value of what we gave him in weaponry, which the Trumplefuck thinks that we just sent pallets of cash over there to bail him out, which isn't true. Like they don't understand. Missiles and weapons and all these things have shelf lives. and we have to replace those missiles, or else they're junk. They get thrown, they get dismantled and thrown away, and it's a total loss. So,
Yeah.
in essence, what we did is we said we're going to give you our weapons on the end of their shelf, and we didn't give them a big pile of cash. We gave them these weapons and ammunition and the thing and rockets and missiles, the things that they needed to fight the Russians. And then we went to our defense contractors and said, "Hey, replenish our stockpile." And all those weapons are built in America, by the way. They're
Right.
built in America. There's Americans that build those weapons. They have to be built here because they're, you know, technology that our military doesn't want to share with other countries. So they're not
Right.
built in China or Vietnam or any place like that. So we gave them, you know, basically expired weapons, and we replaced those weapons. And all the Trumplefucks are out screaming, "Oh, we gave them all this money," and we didn't do that. We had to do what we had to replace those weapons regardless. So we just expedited that process.
Right. What do you think happens with him pausing all the support given to Ukraine? You can't legally do that because Congress approved it, but Donald Trump's just going to do what Donald Trump's going to do. Um, do you think that makes Zelensky nervous enough to bend to Donald Trump at all? I
No,
just,
no. Zelensky is not going to bend to Donald Trump. He hasn't bent to Putin for 3 freaking years. He's not going to bend to Donald Trump.
Well,
Europe has their back. They'll do what they can do.
I don't think so. And there's a lot of bluster. I saw some news stories where Ukraine's going to apologize to Donald Trump for what? What the fuck's he going to apologize for? Vladimir Zelensky knows that no matter what he does with Donald Trump, he loses. He loses.
yeah,
If he agrees to the peace deal, he loses the eastern part of Ukraine. He doesn't get Crimea back, and basically Putin gets to control Ukraine. So why would he fucking go back and apologize and agree to that? That's absolutely ridiculous. He's not going to do that, and it's all just right wing media trying to go out there and stir and whip people up, and it's just silly. He's not going to do that. And like she said, the European Union, a lot of the countries, France, Germany, UK, few other smaller countries, they already said, "Fuck it. If the United States isn't going to help Ukraine, we'll fucking make it happen."
yeah,
And they've already,
yeah.
contrary to what Donald Trump says, the European Union countries have already given more money than the United States already. So it's fucking ridiculous.
I also
And
saw.
there,
Sorry, Mike. Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Okay.
No, you go ahead.
I saw a post also that said, and it was just a post, so I don't know if it's true or anything. It wasn't like an actual article, that NATO has had discussions that if the U.S. drops out of NATO, they're going to replace us with Ukraine.
Yeah. I just have a little tip for TJ, and you'll appreciate this, Rebecca. Um,
I'm wearing pants.
you, yeah, well, that's good. That's good. You referred to Rebecca. You referred to Rebecca as she, and anytime I'm talking to somebody and I point to my wife and say she says, she always looks at me and she goes, "I have a fucking name." Oh yeah, that's right, you do. So when Rebecca gets hip to that diss,
Although I
don't
don't
be
know what it
surprised.
means by she. I think everybody does. I'm not
Yeah, well,
offended by that.
well, my wife is my
If
own
he
little.
turned and there was some other woman here when he said she, I'd be concerned. But
Yeah, well, my wife is my own personal Vladimir Putin. I don't fuck around with that shit.
Come on, Cindy.
I do.
Cindy's not
I
that bad.
do.
I'll snitch on you.
No, she's not bad. She's just scary. I'm just kidding. Anyway, T Sal says, LOL, he may come up with a clown story about making a deal with Canada and Mexico tomorrow, and I bet he does, and will probably do it again to enrich his 1% buddies playing the market. Yeah, see, he makes a good point. You know, it's one thing to not give a shit about the little people in this country. There are a lot of big people, oligarch type people that lost a lot of money. I mean, I think I heard the stock market lost $1 trillion yesterday
One
and
point,
today.
yeah, $1.6 trillion or something, some crazy amount of money. That's there's got to be a lot of unhappy people that are powerful in this country right now because of that, and there's going to be some
Yeah,
for that.
I have a feeling they don't cotton to that very well. And uh, Donald Trump got a call or two. Trung Tran says, I agree with Mike. We need to get rid of Donnie Boy. The sooner the better. Yeah, the quicker we can get out from under Donald Trump, the better. And I don't know how we do that. Um, when I sat and watched the speech tonight, and he said the goofy shit that he said, and these Republicans stand up and clap, and they know it's wrong, and they know it's not good for the country, but they just suck up to Donald Trump. It makes you wonder if the Republicans will ever come to the realization that they're killing themselves in the long run. When Donald Trump shits his pants and dies from dysentery or whatever the fuck he dies from, then they're going to be standing there having to explain the rubble that's left by Donald Trump. I said this before. I don't. They're not thinking ahead because there's young people. You know, what's Josh Hawley going to talk about when Donald Trump's no longer and he's still trying to work in politics?
I have no idea. They're going to have nothing. Well, they've
Yeah,
never had anything. Let's be real. Like they've never had any policies that amounted to shit. And now they're just tagging along with Donald Trump because it's a big ass distraction. But I ask Trump fucks, name one policy that the Republican Party has done for you that's helped you personally in the past 20 years. And guess what?
exactly.
They never can fucking name one. And they'll say, "Oh
No,
yeah, well name one policy that Democrats have done that's helped you." And I'll say, oh, "How many do you want me to name?" I said, "How about this?" I said, "Right around the corner from my house, less than a mile from here, there was a bridge that was absolutely crumbling and destroyed, and it was on the verge of probably collapsing. The concrete
right,
was falling off, and Joe Biden and the Democrats passed that infrastructure bill, and it replaced that entire bridge. It's brand new. That helped my community, and that helped me. And the Trump fucks can never fucking name a single fucking policy that helped them. They can't do it.
right.
Ask them when
Yeah.
they fucking try to spin their narrative at you. Ask them that question. They can't do it. They can't name one fucking thing ever.
Well, Donald Trump did say this. He said that when he closed the border, there were fewer immigrants coming across the border than ever before.
That's a lie.
That's a lie. And there wasn't that many. Actually, there were fewer under Joe Biden than there was under Donald Trump for whatever reason. Um, Oliver's mom says something, and she makes a good point. And I bring this up because I've heard people talk about this and they give bad information. Oliver's mom says when Social Security checks are late, people will realize. People will be in the streets if that happens.
Yep.
Now, there was a Social Security guy that used to run Social Security and saying with what they're doing, there could be a disruption. There could be a disruption in payments in the next 30 to 60 days. I go to TikTok and there's people coming out. Social Security is definitely going to be disrupted. You're not getting your check next month. And I hate when people do that. They're just trying to hype people up for clout. It could happen. But here's what you need to understand and how people will react to it. Social Security's been around for what, 80 years?
Yes.
Not once in 80 years has one check been missed or late. Not one.
But
People count on it, people live on it, and if it happens, it's going to be immense what goes
meanwhile,
on.
Security's been around for 80 years, but Trump claims there's money being spent for 360-year-olds.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is one of the things he talked about in his speech was, yeah, there's 100-year-old people, 150-year-old people, 250-year-old people, 300-year people. That was all explained and debunked. They're using uh, uh, a computer system that's so fucking old that it reverts back to a certain date, and it just the whole thing is silly. The
Well,
idea that there are millions of people that are 150 years old getting Social Security check payments is crazy. There are people in this country that do try to cheat Social Security. Grandma dies and they keep getting the checks. Those fuckers get caught typically.
well, here's the thing: when people die, and the funeral directors association has confirmed this. When people die, the funeral directors send a form to the Social Security Administration and say, "Hey, this person died. They're no longer entitled to benefits." They have to do that, right? So the system that Social Security uses is programmed with COBOL, and it's a very old computer language. And when they don't have someone's Social Security number, it defaults to some date that's like 100 and some years old, right? So
Yeah,
that doesn't, just because they're in the system doesn't mean they're getting a fucking check. It's absolute bullshit.
it
It's
is bullshit.
just an error, but they're not receiving any money. And the people who steal from Social Security, ultimately they get caught.
Yeah. Maybe not now because you fired all the motherfuckers that would catch him, but that's
Well,
that's
Yeah,
well,
right.
neither here nor there.
Exactly.
let's just remind everyone that more people got fired from the federal government than got deported in the last 45 days. So,
That's interesting. Yeah, I heard that bit of information. That's interesting. Here's one. Vintage Love 3. This person has had some pretty weird comments, and it goes, dude. This situation we're in didn't just happen, though. Donald Trump hasn't been in office for years. Now, I will tell you this. None of this happened during Joe Biden's term in office. We didn't have a stock market drop. It did nothing but increase dramatically, more so than it did when Donald Trump was in office. Unemployment went down, GDP went up, and now what they're trying to say is, well, Donald Trump's only been in office for 5 6 weeks. It all started with Joe Biden. No, listen to me. Donald Trump said very specifically, and there's plenty of videos out there, prices would come down day one. The Ukraine Russia war would be ended in 24 hours. Everything was going to happen day one. Now, what's going on right now is a in terms of the stock market, it's a direct result of Donald Trump putting on tariffs. That's absolutely it. Farmers are getting fucked in the ass. It's a direct result from Donald Trump shutting down U.S. aid. He's worried about foreign aids to other countries. What he didn't figure and what he doesn't understand yet is that those countries spend the money with our farmers. Now, farmers have crops that are rotting on boats and shit. So don't tell me this was Joe Biden and Donald Trump just got unlucky. These things that are happening now are specifically because of actions Donald Trump took, and if you don't believe me, I'd love to debate you on it. Come on YouTube Live at some point or come on the podcast because you're dead wrong. You don't know what you're talking about.
well, just like today, our friend John said in the chat, and I don't know if you caught it, but the grain valuation is way down because of what Donald Trump's doing. And when they canceled, when they canceled, well, they annihilated. They didn't even cancel it. They annihilated USAID.
Yeah,
People don't understand that in accordance with the law, USAID, all the programs that feed these countries and send food to starving children, all that um, food has to be purchased from U.S. farmers. That's part of the law. So
yeah.
all this food is in shipping containers, thousands of containers, and it's rotting because it can't be shipped to where it needs to go. And now U.S. farmers are going to lose at least $2 billion in the next 2 quarters because they can't ship any of the food out to the USAID programs.
And Joe Biden had nothing to do with that. That's all Donald Trump. Joseph Matusak says thinking Kamala and Trump are just as bad is like saying custard and crap taste the same because they both start with C. I agree with you. You can't, that whenever Donald Trump fucks up, they try to blame Joe Biden or try to equivocate with Joe Biden, where they're just as bad. No, they're not. You have to understand Joe Biden, whether you like him or not, the facts are the facts. In 2020, when Joe Biden took over, Donald Trump crashed the economy. And people will say, well, that was because of COVID. He fucked up COVID. So he's responsible for the economy at that point. From the moment Joe Biden took over, the stock market, the economy improved every month when Joe Biden was in office after Donald Trump crashed it. Donald Trump gets it back. Within 5 weeks, it starts to crash again. Notice a fucking pattern here? It ain't Joe Biden. It's Donald motherfucking diaper Trump.
Yep, I agree with that. So
Let's see. We got the. Go ahead.
I was just dealing with some people in the chat.
Yeah, I've got a few clowns in here too. Sparkling Water says, was President Elon at the speech to make sure the asset keeps in line with Daddy P? Is his too short, too tight t shirt and baseball cap? That's the funny thing. Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend. God, why would you walk around proud about that? Uh, I,
I
he
honestly,
said,
I can't get it, Mike. I can't get it at all.
he says to Zelensky, "Why don't you wear a suit? Do you even own a suit?" I guarantee you, dumb fuck. First of all, his wife is 100 times better looking than Marjorie Taylor Greene, and he has more money than you. You dumb fuck. You work at a Kool-Aid stand of a media outlet, and as I said in a TikTok, if it were me, I would ask the same question of this media guy that asked Zelensky about whether he has a suit.
He doesn't
I'd
wear
have to ask.
he doesn't wear a suit because for the last 3 freaking years he's been at war, and he's worn the uniform of his war. He's worn fatigue gear. He's worn shirts and etc. with the Ukraine logo. That that's his solidarity.
Well, like I told you on the TikTok live a couple nights ago, there's a significant thing about the clothing that he's wearing, and those shirts that he's wearing. They're a nice shirt, but they're made by a Ukrainian child for him. They were specifically made for him. So
Yeah.
he's supporting a child and showing his pride by wearing that clothing. And why the fuck would you wear a suit when you're at war? That doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense. Like I agree with that. Like if if I'm in a position where I'm in a war zone, I'm not going to wear a suit. I have a closet full of suits. If I'm in a war zone, I'm not wearing it. I mean, that's just common sense. I don't know.
well, and what I would ask that reporter, who is Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend, I would say, why do you find it necessary to date outside your species? And that suit I saw him wearing, I guess I didn't realize Montgomery Ward's was still open because that was a shitty looking suit.
Yeah, it was garbage.
Um, Imagine voting someone into presidency that is more friendly to Putin and Kim Jong Un than his allies. That is the most disturbing thing. I mean, you go back to, all these Republicans look back fondly on Ronald Reagan, and you may like him, you may not like him. I think he was the start of the downfall of the middle class. But whether you like Ronald Reagan or not, Ronald Reagan hated the fucking Russians. I mean, he hated the Russians. He is part of the reasons why that wall in Germany was torn down. He called for it. Um, if Ronald Reagan saw these people being complicit with Vladimir Putin, Ronald Reagan would probably kick Donald Trump in the nuts. Ronald Reagan would not like Donald Trump at this point. He would be, and Ronald Reagan was no fucking treat either. He wasn't that smart. He was an actor, but he knew how to play the game. He made some mistakes and he did some illegal shit. But even he was far better than Donald Trump, and he would never agree with Donald Trump on anything he's doing.
No, he'd be rolling over in his grave seeing what's going on right now in this country, and I just I don't even know how to deal with it anymore. To be honest with you, like I I'm done arguing with these motherfuckers. I'm done fucking debating them. I show them factual information. They can't understand any of it or refuse to. And I'm at the point now where I'm just like, you know what? Let them burn it all down to the ground. Be done.
I've said that and people have gotten on me about it. Well, that's not good. That's not sensitive. What choice do I have?
We don't
And
we don't, Mike. We don't have a choice. We don't have a choice. The only way that they're going to understand it is when it fucks them over.
well, and
And
that's a good point. That's a
yeah,
good point. It's not so much that I want them to suffer, it's that apparently it's the only way they can learn a fucking lesson.
yes, and they're not going to figure it out any other way. We like I said, we've tried to reason, we tried to show them, we tried to give them facts. None of that worked. The only thing that's going to work is when their Social Security gets cut, their Medicaid gets cut, their SNAP benefits get cut, they don't get their tax returns. Those are the only things that are going to really have an impact on them when it hits them in the pocketbook. And
Yeah,
they have all these disillusions about getting $8,000 checks from Donald Trump and the Treasury. None of that shit's gonna happen. It's a fucking joke. And
yeah.
anyone that thinks they're getting an $8,000 check from Doge, you're fucking living on fucking Mars.
Yeah.
And
Hey,
where are you? Where's the money going to come from? Because if you found all these government waste, that means the money's already been spent. So what are you going to go into the budget and pull out more money, $260 billion to give back to your dumb fucks? I don't think so. I don't think that's going to
Well,
happen. Donald Trump promises a lot, very rarely delivers.
yeah, well, and it goes back to something that we talked about the other day is that I took I was generous on Elon's net worth, and I said Elon's worth $350 billion.
Yeah,
So I divided that by the population. If you took $350 billion, which there's no fucking chance in hell that this waste that they find is going to total up to that amount, it's all a fucking lie. Right?
yeah,
Even if you took $350 billion and divided it by the population, that means everyone in America would get a check for $1,060. It's a fucking
yeah.
joke. They're stupid.
Yeah, it is stupid. Now, somebody called Hodiner says Dems and traditional GOP folk need to hold a weekly Zoom meeting to discuss the weekly events. They need to build a community of truth. I agree with one thing. I agree the Democrats need to come together and constantly talk, try to somehow control the narrative, keep talking, keep ranting at Donald Trump, because that's what he responds to. I have trouble with the idea that we, as Democrats and Republicans, need to come together to build a community of truth. That's just not possible with Republicans. They've proved it over and over to us the last 10 years. They don't care about truth, they only care about power. And people say, well, you got to bring them in if we want to fix this thing. Look, here's the deal. Even if they come on their knees and say, I'm going to be a better person, why would we possibly trust them? We've never been able to trust them in the past. And to bring somebody in and trust somebody who's going to stab you in the back, that's just fucking stupid.
Right? Yeah, you can't trust any of them. It's beyond that. You know, they, they they can't listen to reason. They can't form a complete sentence. I mean, it's just we're at the point now where we're falling into the level of fascism, and we may not recover from it.
Well, I think we will recover from it, but I think it's going to be a long process. It's going to take some time. If Donald Trump were gone tomorrow, Democrats could take control. We'd have a lot of digging out to do because there's been a lot of damage that's been made. Somebody, Lady Vanilla, asked me, how do I feel about Israel? At this point, I'm not even thinking about Israel. Our country's so fucked up, I have to deal with what's in front of me. But I'm curious as to what the Trump who voted for Donald Trump feel about Israel now, and how
Well,
do they feel about? I don't dislike Israel or the people of Israel; they're fine folks. I do hate Benjamin Netanyahu because he's little more than a miniature Donald Trump, and he wants war and he wants destruction. Don't believe me? What's the latest thing that Benjamin Netanyahu's done? He's cut off all humanitarian aid to Gaza. So
well,
tell me how Donald Trump was a better choice.
well, let's talk about that video that's
Oh,
out.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
Let's talk about that. You know, it, I saw that
Explain
video.
explain the video. Explain the video for folks who haven't seen it.
The video it came directly from Trump. Well, basically, um, and it's an AI generated video that shows the Gaza Strip transformation by Donald Trump to a resort type utopia. I guess is the best way to describe it.
What was it called?
Yeah.
I don't know. A resort utopia type of situation with golden statues of Donald Trump, and
And
it
the,
starts out
the
with like a war torn country,
and then the beautiful
and all
beaches.
like that is the most ridiculous bullshit I've ever seen. And if you think you're going to ethnically cleanse a country and you're going to push all these people back out into Jordan and Egypt and all these other countries, and you're not, and that's going to be just a sanctity and a safe place for people to go on vacation, you're fucking brain dead, because those people are not going to give up their homeland and just walk away and say, "Hey, it's okay. They kicked us out of here. We're done. Like, we'll just go into Jordan. We'll go into Egypt." You're fucking mentally diminished if you think that you build this kind of resort in the Gaza Strip and it's not going to get rocket attacks every day from now to the end of time.
Oh yeah, and if you're going to go on vacation, you go, honey, let's go on vacation. Let's grab the kids and go to Gaza, the place where it's frequently war torn. There's been a war every 20 years there or so. You're going to take the risk to take the family to Gaza? For fuck's sake. This is a very important strip of land to the Palestinians, of course, and they've been treated horribly. But for Donald Trump to come in and say, I'm going to take it over, that's got to piss off Israel too, because
But
that's a fairly coveted stretch of land. If not for the Palestinians, Israelis want that. And Donald Trump's not going to be able to walk in there and take over and build fucking hotels and that stuff. It's just not going to happen. And like you say, if anybody does go in there, they're going to get rocket attacks every day, whether it be Hamas or somebody else.
it's just stupid. You can't just push people out of their country, you know, regardless of you know the diminished amount of population that's there because they were slaughtered by you know Netanyahu and war crimes and what have you. And I'm not saying that Hamas, not Palestine, Hamas didn't do things that were wrong against Israel. They absolutely did.
They're terrorists.
But that doesn't mean that Israel needs to be pushed out of their country, does it?
No, absolutely not.
And
Uh,
and I've always agreed with a two-state solution. It can be done,
well,
but
everybody does.
they need to remove Hamas from control. And however that's done, if the United Nations needs to control the country for a decade, I mean that's the way it. But they got to get Hamas out of the picture, and then
Yeah,
they could realistically have a two-state solution. But as long as Hamas is in the picture, that's not a thing. It's not going to happen. They're going to keep doing what they're doing. They might back off for a while and pretend like everything's hunky dory, but it's not going to be.
right, right. And like people say, what do I think about Israel? I think it's a horrible situation. I hate that people are suffering, but I got shit going on in my backyard right now. I don't really have a dog in that fight. We've got to straighten out the possibility of an autocracy or a dictatorship before I can worry about helping anybody else out. And Ukraine has a direct effect on this country because if Russia pulls in, goes over Ukraine, we've got World War III once they start hitting NATO nations. Stephen Miller, I'm hoping to God it's not that Stephen Miller. I'm guessing not.
I don't think that it.
Um, he says the UK and EU need to put a better deal on the table and piss Trump off. You know what? You got the sense that they're worried about EU because JD Vance said this. He said, if he said Donald Trump is the only game in town, you can't win this without Donald Trump. And if you think some random countries uh, that haven't fought wars in 30 years can put troops in there and that's going to help them, you're crazy. Now they're talking about France and England and some of the other countries there. Again, it goes back to what we said. The EU put more money into Ukraine than America ever did. Um, and I mentioned this earlier, maybe it was in the other live. There is an ace in the hole for EU. They don't have as much money as America, I'll grant you that, but they do have an ace in the hole because you see the EU froze Russian assets, $300 billion worth of Russian assets. So if times get tough and Europe doesn't have the money, just unfreeze that shit, take Russia's money, give it to Ukraine, and let them use that to fight. And I know that Donald Trump is nervous about it based on what JD Vance said, because he basically burned the bridge and now he's getting antsy because he thinks he could lose this to Europe. I mean, Vladimir Zelensky went over to Europe, and he's like the darling over there. Everybody's crowding around him. Donald Trump wanted to make him look bad, and all they did is make him more popular. Of course, Donald Trump fucked up again. But if Europe does come through and give enough to Zelensky to push these people back and ultimately win, how does that make Donald Trump look?
Well,
If Zelensky tells Trump to fuck off, takes EU, and they beat Russia. Vladimir's going to be pissed off, and Donald Trump's going to look like a dumbass.
well, that's exactly what's going to happen because Zelensky isn't taking the surrender deal. We talked about that earlier. And Donald Trump thought he was going to bully Zelensky into signing this thing that was going to basically surrender to Russia, give them the land, and then the rest of it we get 5 times the value of what we gave to you in weapons and mineral rights, right?
Right.
So Zelensky did the right thing and he pushed back on him. And that's what he should have done because Donald Trump's a bully and he wants to get his way. But here's the thing Donald Trump thought he had the ace in the hole by attacking Zelensky. And the European Union came back and said, you know what? Fuck the United States. And they should.
Yeah.
They should
Yeah, they should.
the United States. They came back and said, fuck the United States. We're going to fucking back Ukraine at any cost, whatever that cost is, we're going to do it. And France did it, Germany, the UK, a bunch of Turkey. Man, Turkey being on the side of Ukraine is a big fucking deal because they have the second biggest military behind us. That's a big
Right.
fucking deal.
Yeah.
And to have Turkey has a lot of power in that region because they control the Black Sea Straits between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean Sea. So they can basically say, fuck Russia, none of your ships can come through here. And that fucks Russia over
Yeah.
in a big way. And Putin knows that. And so basically the whole fucking script that Vance and Trump tried to pull on Zelensky blew up in Donald Trump's face and he failed again because he always fucking fails. And now it unified the European Union with Ukraine against Russia and the whole fucking thing was Donald Trump's fault.
And that's why he got mad. That's why he
Yeah,
lost his temper. I was talking to my brother, and my brother grew up with me, obviously, and we had a narcissistic dad, and we learned a lot about the strategies and how they behave. And my
I gotta
brother said the
I
same
gotta
thing to me that
I gotta
what
feel bad for your brother, but go on.
yeah, well, my brother said to me tonight. I was out at a hockey game for his grandson, and he said to me, "When I watched that and Donald Trump lost his shit and went a little unhinged, I know what Zelensky was thinking. The same thing we were thinking when when our dad did that to us. As soon as Donald Trump got unhinged. Zelensky said, I got this motherfucker. I got this fucker on the run. I am winning here. And that's exactly what happened.
That's exact 100%. That's exactly what happened. Because he knew. I think Zelensky knew going into it that he was going to get fucked no matter what.
Yeah.
And you know he 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 knows what a transactional piece of shit Donald Trump is. So he knew that Donald Trump was going to bend him over and take him for everything he's got. So he didn't go
Yeah.
into that meeting with high hopes. I mean, he probably went in there kind of depressed. He's like, this is going to be ugly.
Yeah, but he had to go into that meeting. Like there was like a
Well,
whether or not he was going to show up, or whether or not he was going to go, and it was like up till that day whether or not he was actually going to come. But you're right, TJ. Like he came here knowing what was in store for him, hoping that that was actually going to work in his favor. And
and it did.
if you watch the full video of like before the Oval Office press conference, the full video shows the first words out of his mouth are "Thank you, America." Basically, like he basically
Yeah.
Yeah, and JD Vance lied about it and said you're ungrateful or whatever the fuck he said. You didn't thank us for helping you. That's all bullshit. He said in multiple press conferences, "Thank you to the United States for helping me." Back when Joe Biden was president, he thanked America repeatedly for helping. And this is the treatment that he gets. It's Zelensky wasn't being disrespectful. JD Vance was.
the thing is,
Yeah.
the thing was that edited. That whole thing was edited to make like the American government look great, like they were dominating, like he didn't thank America, like he that whole like thing, everything everybody saw was like to make America look great, and it made us look terrible.
I think Zelensky knew how this was going to go because he knew who Donald Trump was. I think he took one for the team. He gambled that he would look better coming out the other side as long as he held his temper and just responded. He did the right thing that most people don't do to Donald Trump. When Donald Trump raises his voice and starts ranting, they just slink back and they take it. He didn't do that. He didn't yell and scream. He wasn't disrespectful, but he kept talking. And he said that one thing that bothered Donald Trump more than anything was that Donald Trump says, if you don't sign this, you're going to feel it. And Zelensky said, we're going to feel it, but you're going to feel it too. And he was right about that. And that pissed off Donald Trump when he started saying, don't tell us how we're going to feel. Don't tell us how we're going to feel. And that's a standard ploy by most narcissists I've ever known, trying to throw it back in your face, trying to be louder and more obnoxious so that you shrink away. And he didn't do it. And that confused Donald Trump. It confuses every narcissist when somebody does that to him. Trust me, I've learned uh, over time when I run into a narcissist and they try to bully me and shut me up, that's when I get louder. And that's when I fucking win because they can't handle it. They're cowards by nature.
Well, I don't think that Donald Trump actually understood what Zelensky was saying. He thought
No,
that Zelensky was saying you're gonna feel sorry or you're gonna feel. That's not what he's saying. He said you're gonna feel pressure from the rest of the world. That's
right.
happening. Like Trump didn't even fundamentally understand what Zelensky was saying to him. Is that there's going to be repercussions on the world stage for you if you know turn your back on me.
Pharmacy Talk person says they lost their Fed jobs, but they would vote for him again because they like DT's policies. Well, DT's policies was to fire them. I don't get their logic. Yeah, you hear that from farmers too. They get fucked over by Donald Trump, and they would still vote for Donald Trump. I liken I liken this to domestic violence. A woman who is abused by a guy gets knocked around by the guy. The cops come, and she says, "Oh, I don't want to file charges. I love him." And that's kind of, I think all of us in this country have gone through a certain amount of trauma, domestic trauma. Depends on how we all take it. Nothing like that affects me, but a lot of people stress out about it. It's almost like Stockholm syndrome. This guy's fucking you over every time, but you stand by him no matter what. Some of us think it's stupidity, but it's some kind of neurosis. It's got to be.
Well, how? I mean, how would you feel to be like? Can you imagine being a Trumplafuck? I mean, really, you 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 did everything Donald Trump asked you to do. You you gave him money. You bought his shitty Chinese merchandise. You
Yeah.
went to his rallies. You wore his stupid fucking hat everywhere. You lost family members because they don't want to talk to you anymore. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, he fucking fires you. He fires you from your job. Like, can you that I couldn't even comprehend being in that situation.
No, it's silly. It's fucking silly. It's funny. Alina Baba,
Yeah,
that fake lawyer that Donald Trump has,
yeah, she's
that
uh,
Barbie lawyer, Barb. Anyway, she said something. They asked him about all the federal employees that were fired and the veterans that were fired, and
yeah,
she basically said they were fired because they weren't capable of doing their job. Probably not the best way to word that. That did not help them at all. I mean, the fact of the matter, the people that had these federal jobs, and don't get me wrong, I know there's fucking waste in federal and state government and county government and local government. There is waste, and we should get rid of it. But I told my wife, doing what Elon Musk is doing is a lot like weeding your garden by burning the whole fucking thing down. And then
right.
say, got all the weeds, destroyed everything else, but we got rid of the weeds. Um, but it is interesting how people will get their ass kicked and they will still stick with Donald Trump. I give Donald Trump credit. I mean, he's like an abusive husband, and the wife still loves him. I don't get it. Is it self hate? Is it what the fuck is it?
I don't know. I can't figure it out. It's been 10 years of this shit, and I can't understand the decision. I just
AP says if SSI doesn't come, do you think we'll finally see an actual coup? I don't know if I'd go as far as a coup, but you're going to see some violence. I mean, I did a live on TikTok recently. Now I get Social Security and I have other sources of income. So if I lost Social Security, it wouldn't kill me, but it would hurt me
sure,
and it would piss me off.
right.
But I had a woman come on the TikTok live and say, I'm really worried about this because that's how I pay my rent. That's how I get by. That's the only income I have. And there's a lot of people in that situation. And I got to tell you, when you take away the livelihoods of tens or hundreds of millions of people, some shit is going to go down. And people will say, well, they're all old people. What can they do? I tell you what, these old people have kids that are going to have to take them in and have to deal with their parents struggling and being homeless. Everybody in this country is going to be pissed, and they will be in the streets at that point.
Yeah, it's not going to be a bunch of people in wheelchairs rolling up on Washington. There's going to be people that are pissed off about you know, their their sibling on Social Security disability because they're disabled or their parents or whatever. The able-bodied people are going to be the ones that come out and do something about
Right, right, exactly. Sherry Hayward says, I'm a Canadian, and we were envious of the economy that Biden was responsible for. America was recovering faster than anyone in the world during Biden, and that needs to be noted. Coming out of COVID, everybody, not just America, everybody in the world was struggling through that. And Joe Biden was able to mount a return or a recovery that was literally faster than any country in the world. And that is impressive. Donald Trump fucked it up, crashed the economy, put us in a pandemic, and Joe Biden was able to pull us out of that faster than anybody else. You
it.
wouldn't be as in good a shape now going into Donald Trump's term had it not been for Joe Biden.
Well, we recovered from COVID better than any country in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
You're
can,
absolutely right. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Oh, Australia and New Zealand actually were a little better because they
Shut up.
ex-
Shut up.
well
Do not contradict me, Rebecca.
they extended their they extended their bans on any kind of interaction. They were way
Well,
better.
no, but not economically though.
No, not
Economic,
economically. No.
economically, we recovered better than any country in the world
Well,
from an economic and inflation standpoint. We
yeah. Well,
recovered way
yes.
faster.
Agreed.
Now, Kathy sounds like she's from Australia. She says, "Hi, Chad. It's interesting watching all the fallout down here in Australia. It's also very sad. That's something we don't know about how this is affecting other countries. We kind of know how it's affecting Canada, um, but Australia. That's the thing is when we have these kind of problems in this country economically, our economics do affect other countries, and we saw that with COVID, how everybody's affected. And you have to wonder. I mean, I get a lot of people coming from different countries making comments and are interested in what's going on. It'd be interesting to find out how many people are fearful about how it might affect them directly or indirectly if Donald Trump continues to do the bullshit he does. Let's see here. Everyone else noticed the pattern of lies too. That's why you lost. Get out. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Um, Well, I tell you this, Noah, many of us, at least half this country, noticed his lies, his pattern of lies. 34 times convicted felon, adjudicated rapist, a treasonist, a seditionist. He did all those things. Many of us were quite aware of what's going on. The sad thing is, there were at least half of this country, a little less than half of this country, that apparently didn't understand that or didn't care. And I really think it was more that they didn't care. People who follow Donald Trump don't they talk about policy, but there is no policy to talk about. I've said it before. I think these people that follow Donald Trump are just unsophisticated. They're fucking fanboys or fangirls, and they just like his attitude. I'm a tough guy and I'm going to protect you. And for some reason, they buy into it.
Well, they literally don't know anything about Donald Trump, and
No.
that's half the problem is that they don't know. They're like, oh, Donald Trump's a good businessman. The fuck he is. The fuck he is. He Trump steaks failure. Trump vodka failure. Trump Airlines failure.
University.
Trump University failure and a fraud, and he got sued. He had to repay the people that he scammed on his scheme on his university. Trump Charities, a fraud. He's banned from ever owning a charity, I think, ever in New York. I don't know if it's forever, but at least in the long term, he's not allowed to own a charity. Casinos, times. He bankrupted a casino. How the fuck do you bankrupt a casino? And these motherfuckers don't know about any of this stuff. And if you tell them that, they don't believe you. They and I know from experience, they don't believe you. But it's all true. And it's sad.
Now,
It's so sad that they're that fucking stupid that they don't know that.
okay, now I'm going to cut you loose on this one, TJ. I would love to do it, but I'd rather watch you do it. David White says, well, he's not at war. Did our president ever wear fatigues during wartime? God damn, y'all simple.
Oh,
You want to address David White?
First,
President Bone Spurs, who got a deferment from the draft because Daddy fucking Fred Trump covered for him and lied and had a doctor lie so he didn't have to, go into the draft. That's a fucking joke. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. I mean, it's so silly. It's
Well, and I'll point out one other thing, David White. You want to talk about simple. Here's how simple you are. Did any of our presidents wear fatigues during wartime? No. Other than the Civil War, do we have a war in our country? It was in Germany. It was Japan. It was wherever the fuck it was. He's in the middle of a war.
Right. And was
Zelensky has been in the war zone. I'd like to see Donald, and even Joe Biden went to Kyiv to talk to Zelensky. I'd like to see Donald Trump load up some extra diapers, get on the plane, see if there's a golf course in Ukraine, and go into Kyiv and actually talk to Zelensky. He won't. He's a fucking coward.
yeah. And George W. Bush flew over to Iraq. He didn't wear fatigues. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. That's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, people will try to argue with you about the stupidest things, and since we're here, I'm going to get rid of David White because he's a dumbass. Um,
He's already
I
gone.
blocked him a long
He's
time ago.
already gone, Mike.
good. John Taft says, I agree with you 100%, but tell me how half of America sees it the other way. I don't understand. I'm with you. I'm with you, John. I tell this story all the time. You know, prior to the election, I told everybody that no way Kamala doesn't win. No way Donald Trump wins. I went to bed on election night. My wife was concerned about this. I go to bed, I wake up, and what wakes me up is my wife's voice saying, that motherfucker won. You promised. And she was mad at me all day because I promised her. Because logic is, well, I was using logic and common sense, and that was my fatal flaw. There is no logic or common sense when it comes to Trump or Trump followers. I'm sorry. I don't know how else to look at it other than what's logical, what makes sense. Let's see here. What else we got? I also heard, this is Oliver's mom. I also heard that Zelensky gave away all of his material possessions. I don't know if that's true. He may have. I mean, it's a little different when they're bombing the shit out of your country. You got to focus on the problems at hand, and fighting a war is what you need to do. Lord Kelvin says, by your reasoning, it's important to wear a suit to a meeting. Well, he's not talking to me. Um, is it important to wear a suit? I will tell you this. When I was growing up, um, my father was a narcissist. He was an executive. Was very successful. He had a whole closet full of expensive suits for the time. He wore a suit every day. And because of that, I refused to wear a suit in any circumstance. When I was in business, the only time I've worn a suit recently uh, is uh, is to my son's wedding, and that's because mom told me I needed to. Other than that, I will never wear a suit. I don't even understand what the need for a suit is. If I have to wear a suit to impress you, you're not fucking listening.
I did not hear that. Well, actually, I did hear rumors that he gave up his possessions, but I heard more rumors that he gave up all of his wealth and everything that he had basically to fund the, the rebellion.
I don't know if you heard this. Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin really want Zelensky to resign or get kicked out. And the reason they want to do that is because he's a strong leader. They want a weak leader that they can make do whatever they want them to do. Zelensky said to him, he says, "Yeah, I'd resign." He told a reporter this, "I'd resign, you know, if they put Ukraine in NATO." That ain't gonna happen.
No, that's absurd. I just the level of stupidity is beyond my reasoning anymore. Like I just I can't deal with it. My brain is like annihilated from what happened tonight. What's happened in the last 40 days. Um, I
Uh,
have to wonder that when are what's going to happen with the judicial system? I mean, all these judges are telling Trump, "You're violating the law, and you're in contempt of court by doing this." When are the U.S. Marshals going to do something about it?
well, the
Because
problem with the federal marshals is they're under the purview of the DOJ, which Donald Trump owns. That's the problem.
I understand that, but they don't swear an oath to the president. They swear an
Right.
oath to the Constitution. So they should uphold their oath to the Constitution and uphold the law. If a judge files something, it needs to. That's it. That's the end of it. Like that's that's upholding your oath to the Constitution. Just like a fellow on TikTok that he's a somewhat high ranking military officer, and he said, "Don't worry, the U.S. military will uphold their oath to the Constitution." I'm starting to wonder a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm wondering, did you notice in that speech though, for a second they cut away to the generals and the military brass that were there? They cut away to them. All their faces look like, what the fuck? They
Right.
know they were in trouble. They have an oath that they have to uphold to the Constitution, but they also have to deal with Donald Trump. And that's the question: who's going to be strong enough to push back against Donald Trump? Donald Trump's always been the one to push people, and they've all demurred. Somebody's going to have to push back, and you have to. I have to wonder. Um, there's at least two or three cases at the Supreme Court. We're waiting to hear what they say about these things. And some people suggest that the Supreme Court will just bend over to Donald Trump. And I'm not so sure of that because what he's asking about his rights to do anything are just not there. And if the Supreme Court does this, they pretty much give away all their power. If the Supreme Court does this, there's no point of having a judicial system at all.
Well, that's. I think that John Roberts is worried about that because
Oh, I know it is.
yeah, because if they go ahead with what they're doing and they don't uphold judicial orders, then it invalidates all the judicial system of the entire country. So the Supreme Court is irrelevant. They're irrelevant. If,
Yeah.
if they're not going to hold up the law on the lower courts, U.S. circuit courts or district courts, then why have a Supreme Court? It means fucking nothing. And that's why they're getting jacked off about it is because they know that if Donald Trump ignores these orders, it's the end of them too.
This OBD5 says, I heard Italy has backed out of giving aid to Ukraine. I hadn't heard that.
I
I,
don't.
I don't know if they would or not. I don't know even know who's running Italy, but Italy is not that big a deal compared to the UK or to the EU in general. They may have, you know, but it's going to be interesting to see how this works out. If Donald Trump doesn't continue to support Ukraine, it's going to slap back in his face. There's no question about it. Much like the tariffs, he's all big on the tariffs. It's going to make us rich, but he keeps pulling back on them. These are all threats to get people to bend to him, and people just aren't doing it anymore because they realize Donald Trump is a little more than a fucking joke, and it's becoming more and more apparent every day. Frank Capolino says they should have shouted liar, liar every time Trump said something. And that's what we talked about before. I would have liked to have seen the Democrats be a little stronger in that speech. We know that Al Green stepped up and he got thrown out of the House of Representatives. And what we were saying before, it would have been nice if they had set up a situation where they had somebody every 10 minutes do what Al Green did so they'd have to stop and send them out. I wanted to them to get to the point where Donald Trump got mad. When he got mad, he'd get unhinged and then he'd make a fool out of himself. Well, he made a fool of himself anyway, but he would have made a fool of himself in front of the Republicans. They would have hated that shit.
Well, I kind of wish that they would have got under his skin a little more than they did. They didn't really do that. And Mike Johnson is a coward for throwing out Al Green. That's ridiculous. Like, so what if he doesn't want to sit down? Shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? It's sad. It really is sad. And
Now, 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 Sherry Hayward says that video that you talked about Gaza,
yeah,
she says it's called Gaza 2025 and the creator meant it to be satire. And that might very well be the case. That's not the point. The point is that Donald Trump reposted it
Yeah,
as if he supported it.
he loved it. He loved it, and that's not good. It's not good. Um, and I want to give a little shout out right now to Benny Loco. Thanks for coming in here and helping out. We appreciate it because these fucking idiots in here are crazy.
Yeah, yeah, we're going to wrap things up here. We're about at that point right now, and thanks to Benny Loco for that. She's kind of a Trumplefuck demon like you are, TJ and Rebecca. Uh, you take special joy in dispatching with Trumplefucks, and it's funny how I didn't used to get a lot of them here on YouTube, but they sure are coming in now, and they are angry. It's probably because they're losing and they know it, and they need to start a fight. Well, I will tell you this: anybody who is a Trumplefuck fan and who wants to debate, who thinks they're smarter than me or Rebecca or TJ or Eric or Will, you're more than welcome to email me at rationalboomer@gmail.com. Please come on the podcast. I'll let you talk as much as you want, but I'm going to talk too. TJ would talk too. Everybody would talk too. And I tell you what, it will not go well for you. It never has with the Trumplefuck on the podcast or in the lives. It's a fool's errand if you want to jump in, but if you think you're that smart, come on up. Come
If
on in.
if you don't believe it, ask Brian Wallenberg.
Yeah. That dipshit. Or HVAC Jeff.
Yeah,
He didn't have a good day either. And some of the people that have come into the live are just absolutely ridiculous, just absolutely stupid. Um,
HVAC Jeff got his ass kicked so bad he switched teams.
he did. You did. Well, TJ and Rebecca, thank you for spending some time with me here. It's so much easier when I have somebody else to talk to in addition to the questions. Uh, but thank you for joining us. All of you that were in the comments, thank you very much for coming in and spending time with us here on the Rational Boomer podcast slash YouTube live. For those of you that don't know, this YouTube live will also be the podcast for tomorrow. So if you missed some of the live, you can go to YouTube here for the podcast or Spotify for the audio version of it, and you'll be able to hear the whole thing. So thanks to all of you for taking the time to listen. Thanks for TJ and Rebecca for joining me, and we'll talk to you again very soon.